Hi, I'm Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and I really appreciate the wonderful questions that you send in to my website, and I try to pick out the most relevant ones to share with you here. Here's a wonderful one. My wife and I have recently lost our baby girl at 29 weeks for unanswerable reasons, though various tests have been completed. We know that we must place all our trust in the Lord. Can you offer guidance as we study through Job's experience and restoration? Thank you. And that's from Scott. Scott, first of all, I not only sympathize with you, but since my wife and I went through the same experience, not once but twice, we empathize with you. You and your wife had made room in your hearts for this new arrival in your family, and now your extended arms of welcome are empty. It is sad, and we want to do everything possible to try and help you through this time. You and your wife have taken it upon yourself to read through and study the book of Job as a blueprint of suffering. And I want to suggest that you back off of that you don't do that. And I'll tell you why. By the way, I think you should be reading Psalms. I think you should be reading Proverbs. I think there are other parts of the Hebrew Bible that are relevant, as well as other areas. But the problem with the book of Job is that it's not truly comparable to what you went through, without in any way minimizing your pain and your suffering. If you see what happened to Job, it's not the same thing. Now, it's not only quantitatively different, but it's also qualitatively different. It's a different level of suffering. And so the book of Job doesn't really fit in. You see, although there is a very strong and unquestionable prohibition in the Torah against abortion. We cannot view the child in utero as disposable, in spite of what happens in society at large, which is deplorable and which is lamentable. But at the same time, we have to be able to be mature enough to recognize that there's a huge difference between losing a child who has been born and has been part of your family, and who has even spent a number of years with you as part of your family, and then, God forbid, that child departs, as opposed to losing a child in utero. Painful without question. Suffering, we know you are, but it isn't the same thing. How do you view the loss of a child in utero? Well, for God's own reasons, He had to make this little soul go through a certain period in utero before taking that child home. We obviously don't know why. We obviously can't even speculate. But instead of seeing yourselves as having gone through an ordeal that ends up meaningless and empty, I think it's more correct to see that people in your situation are going through not a meaningless ordeal, but as vehicles of part of God's overall plan. We don't know the reasons, of course not. We don't know the reasons for anything that God decides in terms of our own lives, the lives of other people, and even the lives of entire societies and countries in the world. We don't know or understand those calculations, but we do nonetheless recognize that we were part of God's plan in this area. And so for that reason, I discourage the book of Job for what you're going through. It's a time to build faith. It's a time to recognize that you were part of God's plan, not in a happy and an easy way, but in a difficult way. But nonetheless, you did play a part in God's plan. And you move forward from here, not backwards. You have to get past it, and you have to be able to look towards happy times ahead. And I pray that you will find that happiness, that there will be many more instances where you will welcome into your lives joy not suffering, where you will welcome the Isaacs and the Jacobs and the future children that will be part of your family, as opposed to the sadness that you've now endured. Onwards and upwards. I'm Rabbi Daniel Lapin, wishing you only good times in your family, in your friendships, in your faith, and in your finances.